Okay, so we are live. Welcome back to Dr. J Radio Live. Now, shit happens. Sorry, folks. Preston is late, so had to resort to a backup plan with my dear friend Michael from Dark Hour Paranormal. So let's make the most of it while we can. Preston may show up in the second hour. I don't think he just screwed up the date. I did speak to him last night. So without further ado, let's talk about this upcoming report. I personally think it's going to be whitewashed. It's going to be filled with a lot of bullshit. We're not going to be told about time travelers or ETs. We're probably going to be shown some more footage of Tic Tacs. Hopefully some submarine pilots will come forward. We'll probably see, I would think, some actual footage as opposed to this grainy FLIR camera. That's my personal opinion, and also with my connections to the Trump White House, people like Roger Stone, Jerome Corsi, General Flynn. That's the scoop that I've been getting. Friends at CIA, NSA, DOD, FBI. I don't think we're going to get much, and I also am getting the impression, I've spoken to Lou Elizondo's manager, and I don't want to throw out a date for anybody because things happen very quickly. That's why I hate to say when someone's coming on in the future, I just say pay attention. So, Mike, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, this is literally coming out next week, next Friday. The 17th is this Thursday. So next Thursday, the 25th. What do you think we're going to get?
Yeah, the time crept up so quickly, and we were talking about this all the way through, as certain things were sort of dropped onto us, trickled down, and what have you. Initially, I thought maybe we would actually see some sort of evidence of our intervention with the high technology that we're seeing in our skies. Again, this was my initial thought that in most respects, it was probably optimistic. But today, I'm looking more towards where you're sitting here, Dr. J. And that is, that we're going to get a bunch of fluff, things that we can't really wade through, many of it redacted. They're going to say, hey, we gave you the first. Doesn't matter, you can't read it, but we gave it to you. And then, of course, in the way of video, there are a lot of people who think we're going to see something more clear. Do you think we're going to catch anything in that?
I think we might get a couple. For instance, they've confirmed that the Tic Tac, the gimbal, and the Go Fast, they have a lot more things filming that. We just got the worst of the crap that we can see, where it's just a bulb. I wouldn't be surprised if, say, along with that famous gimbal video or Go Fast video, they'll release the companion of actual 8K or 4K filming, because I believe they finally film in 8K. I know Vladimir Putin has an 8K television. I wouldn't be surprised if our military is using 8K by now, I would think, for God's sakes. So, I mean, it would be quite stupid if they don't. But according to what I've heard Elizondo's managers say, they have a lot more than what we've been told. And again, as it gets filtered, we have a lot of bureaucrats. The swamp is a mess. It's a massive mess. There's a few people in the DOD that are holdouts that it looks like they're throwing Lou Elizondo under the bus. That's why I fear it's not going to be as big as it's supposed to be. And again,
there's definitely a lot of energy and hype around this.
Yeah, and personally, in my opinion, December 2017, that to me was disclosure, because that's the first time when you had the New York Times article released those 3 videos, and the DOD confirms it. Yeah, it took a lot longer for them to confirm it. I believe it was this year or last year, a couple of years, right? The point is, that to me was as close to disclosure as we're going to get, because they didn't come back and say, the next day, hey, these are, air balloons or weather balloons or swamp gas or some other bullshit than that. So that's why to me it was a very exciting era. What Linda Moulton Howe told me last week, that this time period that we're living in is very, very exciting, because you really can't say that UAPs don't exist anymore. That's out the window, and we're not getting ridiculed anymore. That's a amazing factor and a huge thing, because 5 years ago, you couldn't say this on mainstream TV without getting laughed at. That was just the norm.
Yeah, you would talk about even with the host or the announcer, and they'd be laughing right to your face on this subject, while you'd be sitting there stone-faced trying to bring across something more serious in the way of research. This isn't incredible time. And, there are many real aspects of the peripheral actions that are happening all around us. But truthfully, if we were looking at what's in front of our face here in respect to the UAPs and, this report that's allegedly coming up, the implication of this report even being on the table is enormous. And it speaks volumes about where we might be headed. People are asking, well, verify that they've gone through every cabinet file up there and, we're clear and everything, but, we're going to have to go on the word. So if we come to find out that they were withholding some information, who exactly might hold them responsible? Who's going to go after that? That would be an entire, project in the way of going uphill too. But, we have to look not necessarily just at this deadline, but the implication that we're living in respect to what's being presented to us from authority figures that had clammed their mouths for so long. And we can talk about the airline pilots and how they're now openly talking of secrecy that they all had to follow in respect to what they saw.
And
we're getting open. So what's happening here on the larger picture?
They would get fired. If you remember the Japan Airlines case,
there's a larger picture.
He took massive shit from everybody, and I believe he lost his wings, or at least stopped working for Alaskan or Japanese Airlines. Pretty bad stuff for, just reporting what you saw. So that's why I think we're finally, the 60 Minutes even covered it. You had Fravor, Ryan Graves, I believe, and I don't remember the pilot's last name, the female, Alex something, but she was in the other F-18.
I don't remember either.
While Commander Fravor was chasing the Tic Tac. And she only came out because Fravor came out. So it's kind of domino effect is what I'm noticing here.
What's kind of funny, too, is that if they've kept this secret for so long, it had to be hush-hush, the lid on. You could reasonably deduce that they might have thought it was a threat because they didn't know what it was, or they didn't know what they were seeing, the same way that we look into the skies and I don't know what it is. But again, they might have felt that it was a threat, not knowing, and then something changed, wherein now they kind of do know what it is, or they know exactly what it is, and they're ready to reveal that to the public. But if that is the case, why the hell are we talking about it being a threat now? Doesn't that seem sort of contrapuntal in respect to what, you know what I'm saying?
If ETs were really going to harm us, all these people have been abducted, well, then I would expect them to never have returned. Now, we do have missing 411, right? We don't know where those people went. Was it Bigfoot that took them? Did they just get lost in the woods, or who knows what it is? Is there some dark forces, ET or interdimensional beings that take you permanently and never bring you back? But for the most part, look, Maelstrom Air Force Base in the 60s, right? Captain Robert Salas. He was in charge when 9 nuclear weapons were shut down. Now, in each of these nukes were independently, you couldn't launch one and affect the other. It's like they were completely independently. Correct. So for all 9 to go offline at the exact same moment, it's tapping into 9 things. Now, one of them, the UFO, actually started the launch countdown, and seconds away from nuclear Armageddon, they stopped it and gave full control back. I think that was to send a message saying, look, we can go into over your nuclear base, pretty much whenever we want, and we're giving you a chance to say, hey, these are bad things, not for good for Earth, because we're like cavemen, essentially, in their eyes, from what I hear from people who have been abducted. And that's another thing, too, is abductees. We're not going to hear anything about that when it comes to contact. And that's a major thing, too, because you have the landing in RAF Woodbridge, in Rendlesham Forest. That was a U.S. Air Force Base along with a Royal Air Force Base. Well, where are those documents? Where's that footage, right? That case should have been something that I would think would be in this, but yet I don't think it will be, because the implications of the time travel, which is what Peniston says he believes they are, is not going to be talked about at all. The occupants are not talked about at all. And that's another pretty sad thing. That's hopefully further down the road. But I don't know. That's why I'm not that excited about next week. But I am eagerly awaiting the 25th, as we all should be.
We're not going to see anything in the way of divulging alien life. Not from, what we have in front of us right now. What they're going to show us is that either they are privy to certain high technology and can't talk about it, but they're privy, or they're going to say, hey, there are certain things that we're just still not familiar with. But look at that light, though. It really puts the government in a motion wherein they're admitting they don't know something. You know what I mean? Something that could, with all implications, here be able to destroy us with whatever we may not have. So that's an interesting place to put yourself, especially when it comes to the way of government. Again, showing some weakness. Now, if every government came out in the world, major government said, hey, we all in unison say, this is what we're seeing, this is how we feel, that's a little bit different. But that's not what's happening right now. This is specific to the United States, in respect to this disclosure, which honestly, to me, is really a misnomer. The way of 2017 being the year that things began to crack and ramp up, and it's been a process since. We talk about soft disclosure. We talk about that, throughout this whole process.
That's been happening for 70 years.
But it's been happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's been happening for much longer than we believe.
Yeah.
Well, there are some that say the disclosure began back in
the 40s.
The 50s.
Yeah, because it was the 50s.
So
really
the 40s made the awareness come up. Yeah.
Yeah, but in 52, after we had the twice in 1 week, the UFOs over the Capitol in D.C., that's kind of when the ridicule process started. Project Sign, then Grudge, and then Blue Book. All meant to really throw us under the bus and make us look like stupid hicks driving alone drunk in the middle of nowhere, which is pretty lame because you have PhDs, you got NASA astronauts, you have a lot of very credible witnesses who have seen people abducted even. If you recall, Linda Cortiel, you ever heard of her?
Yes.
Okay. Linda, fascinating woman. When I interviewed her, it was 6 years ago. I have to bring her back on. But can you imagine that the UN, I believe, was the Secretary General, along with his personal security and the limo driver, driving, I believe, on the Brooklyn Bridge, seeing a saucer hovering 9 stories, 10 stories up outside, right up outside an apartment building. And then they see a woman float out from the building, and then they see small figurines flowing out into the building. They witnessed her abduction, literally. And that is somebody who is very credible. And if it wasn't for the limousine driver to come out, we would have never known who saw it. Now, the person, the UN Secretary General, never talked about it, but his staff did.
Well, I mean, there are many reasons they're fearful themselves to witness something like this. If you've ever been in a paranormal situation where you're seeing an apparition right in front of you, it's startling. It charges you. And it's natural, but you also know that you're seeing something that is in the way of being that. When it comes to abductions, a lot of people are asking, well, are they taking our physical body? Are they pulling energy out of us and then going in that way? Of sightings like you're just naming now, they certainly do take us physically in certain ways. Whether we remember it or not, however they're going to manipulate our arc field in way of certain pressure points, that's a whole different story. I'm sure there's a science behind that. But, in respect to these people being taken and what we're going to be seeing later on this month here, it's just we're not going to find it has to be some sort of responsibility if indeed somebody does find and concretely show that the government knew all about this, or there were groups of people that were very aware that people were being taken, and even going as far back as saying that we were actually involved in that sort of when we signed a treaty and allowed the certain exchange of information for people. And so, I mean, it's a very curious thing. But again, we're looking at this in such a large way because we want these answers. And here they're throwing a little bit of a carrot to us. But you got to keep in mind, it's only a small carrot. There's still the entire garden to go through.
Yeah, and after
that's why we'll still have something to do.
Yes, exactly. If anything, we're not out of a career yet. Now, MJ12, right? Obviously, Those people died out. Replacements came and gone. I hear they even changed that name. But that group, you still have things like, say, the sports model and the other 8 craft that were at S4. I hear stories, George Knapp said this or hinted at it, that Robert Bigelow may be the one in possession of the sport model right now, or at least one of the craft from S4. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Jeff Bezos, or probably not him as much as Elon Musk, has access to some of this info. I would think so. Give it to the guys with the most aerospace, experience and the money to back it. That's what, but it's those holdouts and those black op projects, literally those suppressed, off the book projects that are so, bundled up and hidden with black money in the US. I don't think we're ever going to get to that. Ever. We're never going to be able to identify who's holding them. We got lucky with Bob Lazar, but how many other people tried to come out with their story and then got accidentally suicided?
I have to think at some point that particular line of the story is going to get stale. Things change whether we want them or not. And a lot of it has to do with environment and atmosphere. Really, it's not just, us changing physically. It's everything around us shifting. So, I have to believe that there is some sort of organization in the way of at least collective consciousness, wherein if we're focused on one thing and we desire this is the manifested reality that we're seeking to create, we can actually create some of these events wherein we, gather more truth or we stumble upon it. Now, more than likely what happens with what goes on now is that we'll find out many, many, many years when everybody's past and generations have gone. They'll look back and say, oh, look at the writing that was on the wall. We see it in a different light, everything clearer in retrospect, right? In analyzation wise. So, we're not going to necessarily, we're living in this, I should say, in this time wherein we know that there is a truth that isn't being divulged to us. We know that there is a narrative and an agenda of secrecy wherein we don't know what the end looks like for that. And yet I'm not afraid. I think there's something bigger happening here in the way of where we're moving. So I don't think there's anything to fear with what we're going to be seeing and what we're seeing now.
Here's a question from Lasha Senyek. Do you think it is possible that Project Blue Book was actually the military researching people who report UFOs in order to create a blue book of things to pass off as scary new military tech? Like RAVs, for instance? Or ARVs, sorry.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah. What do you think?
It's an interesting idea. I don't know that specific project was responsible for that, but I do believe that there have been other projects that are executed in this manner, and that there are still projects going on like that in the present. In fact, I have a guest coming on next week by the name of Alex Oyens.
Yes, Alex
I think it is. And he actually believes. I always mess his last name up. He forgives me, but
he's cool.
He believes that this may be something that he's experiencing, and it may be tied into the fact that he's having other experiences with cryptids. He's having experiences with extraterrestrials, and again, perhaps the government or whatever factions are interested are taking him in the way of that observation, in the way of that research, because he's on the front lines.
Well, I'm starting to think that there's a very thin line with all of that, with cryptids, UFOs, ghosts, everything, because look at Skinwalker Ranch. They've experienced everything from Sasquatch to ghosts to voices in their head, weird shit, along with structured craft and actual gray aliens. That's some of the most frightening thing. When you come out here, I was telling the cousins when we come on this tour, I'm going to go with you guys to Arizona, and we're going to stop at Stardust Ranch because John Edmonds told me we can go. But I'm still frightened. He said, you better be very well grounded. And I got a lot of stuff going on in my life. I do not want to get attacked by ETs where he has to come out with an AK-47 shooting at the craft so they can let me go from this beam of light. That's what happened to his wife. He's literally killed 18 or 19 grays by now with a samurai sword. I mean, it's a really crazy case. If you haven't listened to my interview with him, check it out. John Edmonds. But that is one of our stops that I'm going to make sure we go when we hit Arizona. And I'm going to do my best to follow you guys on other places, but I do have to come back a couple times for appointments and things like that, pre-ops and stuff that people don't necessarily.
Oh yeah, I'll be back and forth too. Yep.
Yeah, because you got to go back home to
That's
see
fine.
kids and stuff like that, right? Okay. Now, why do you think no one's mentioned the occupants at all? Because sure, when I had Michio Kaku on last summer and he dropped a bombshell, I've never heard him say UFOs are real. But he did say the Tic Tac gimbal and GoFest are possibly ET drones. And I was like, whoa, that I believe that was the portion that was used in the documentary that the cousins made, Countdown to Disclosure. So that little clip of Michio Kaku, if everyone knows, that came from my interview. So if you wanted to hear it in full, just find it on this channel. And I was hoping to get him back before the report, but it's not going to happen this quick because he's kind of booked up through the report. And I don't blame everybody. Everybody's very, very booked up, very active right now because of it coming. But I think there's going to be a lot of disappointment. So everybody, please don't get your hopes up that this is going to be the end all truth. It is not. You remember in 95 or was it 97? 95 was the first Air Force report on Roswell where it debunked the whole thing. And then 2 years later, 1997, they released a final report where it talked about the bodies being crash test dummies and the people had bad memories because that crash test dummies were dropped in the 50s, full 10 years after Roswell. And they said that the people got their dates messed up. I mean, that was offensive. Because the people from Roswell were still alive, some of them, like Jesse Marcel Jr. He was alive at least for another, I want to say 15 years because he passed away after I interviewed him in 2013. So, and that's just one of many people that were definitely very upset with what the Air Force said because they basically made no effort to acknowledge that something did happen.
They won't because there's too many tracks to cover when you talk about some of these classic cases. And again, if they say, all right, we lied about one thing, then people are going to address every other thing that they've lied about. And then where does that lead them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You talk about distrust amongst certain organizations, and that's obviously a very healthy distrust at this point. It's gone. So, I mean, you have to look at the whole picture here of what we're dealing with. Now, you asked why aren't they really talking about the occupants? Because we're all so fascinated and focused on the flash in the sky that even right now, we'll talk about UAPs. Okay, it's not a laughing matter anymore. Extraterrestrials are driving them. Hold on a second. You know what I mean? So we haven't necessarily gotten there yet, but maybe that's where we're going to be heading. Either way, something is propelling this craft, whether it's organic or it's a drone, and it's clearly there in our skies and now being acknowledged. So the next big question will be, who is it that is manning these crafts?
Well,
that's what's coming next, I think.
It's Russia or China is such bullshit, honestly, because this technology is light years ahead of us. 600 to 700 Gs, sometimes 800 Gs is what is reported with these craft, the capabilities. Hell, 9 Gs, you're going to pass out. 16 Gs will rip the wings off an F-18. Where do you survive 900 Gs? Even the equipment, it will be crushed. There is nothing we have, no alloy that can withstand that kind of G-force. Impossible. So we're literally light years. This is a total new physics for us. This has to explain how they're able to travel faster than light, or better yet, through a portal, Einstein-Rosen bridge.
I remember watching Futurama many years ago, and although I put together that there were a lot of references to Kurt Vonnegut's world, I thought one of the
Mm-hmm.
more unique aspects about that show was the way that their ship actually worked. Now, by no means is this something groundbreaking, but it does jog your ideas in a different direction, wherein it wasn't that the ship moved around the universe, it was that the universe moved around the ship. For
Yes.
some reason, I think there's some validity there. And of course, typically and mathematically, I can't sit here and explain it to you. But I think, again, in the way of perception, perhaps the way that one can dive in and out of a dream and still experience reality, tangible reality within the waking state and the dream state, perhaps these beings or perhaps ourselves have figured out certain ways to sort of slip between the folds of vibration. Now,
Yeah.
looking at the world in respect to vibration, you can understand that it's more easily manipulated than perhaps at first glance. So if they are some 100 years ahead in technology, and I believe Billy Carson believes that they're even further, okay,
Oh,
in terms of what we
absolutely.
have for
Because
technology.
look, you got
You know
ancient
what I mean?
paintings. You got cave paintings, 30,000 years old, where you have UFOs like over animals. Literally, I believe the oldest one was a cave
Mm-hmm.
in France, and they're all over the planet. And that's just the oldest. You got those paintings with Jesus or the Virgin Mary and the UFO in the back with the guy looking up at it. Or the other one where Jesus is on the cross and you have this, like, looks like a UFO with an eye, like looking down. So you got stuff that's been happening. You have that wood, I don't know what you want to call it. It's not sculpture, but wood art, whatever, from Nuremberg. You also have that Swiss one where it was like a fight where they had like cigar shaped, like cross shaped objects, orbs. So this has been happening a long time. But the ARVs, I don't think there's any way 75 years ago that we were flying them around. And that bullshit talk I've heard that Roswell was actually, disabled children that were modified to look like UFOs, and this was actually Soviets flying. That's such crap because you have so many people that have come out. Yeah, it's very out there, and in Colonel Corso's dying words, those were bodies that looked like children, only they were not human. 6 fingers, 6 digits. I mean, weird as hell.
Yeah, that doesn't, that particular theory, and I've heard, I forget the woman's name, but there's one woman out there who's talking about this quite often. But, we have to look at the several possibilities here. I mean, a lot of people will say, okay, we see these UFOs in pictures of the past and engraved in different carvings and so forth. That must be meaning that extraterrestrials made contact. But there's another theory that sits in its own universe, wherein if we have this technology and we're able to do the time traveling, maybe we already went back in time, and that's what they were seeing and that's what they're observing in the sky. So it actually came from this period of time. I think that theory doesn't hold up as a long run theory, because when you talk to, some of the Aboriginal tribes and they talk about their interaction and the knowledge they received from particular beings that either came from spacecraft or inhabited the bodies of whales and dolphins and so forth, there's a whole bunch in their legend in that way too. They don't fit the description of people that were time traveling and messing about. They fit the description of something more cosmic, wherein, they talk about these Nordic people or they talk about reptilian beings. I mean, as far as I know, that this isn't coming from our time period in the way that we know it today. So there's a lot of different thought, but how it all sort of goes together in respect to what the reality is. The problem is eventually we're going to find that reality is truly not linear, and that we're living on many different timelines at once, skipping back and forth in relation to the experience as a whole. You look at the slit experiment that was done some time ago, when they would observe the atoms going through a particular slit, it acted differently than when they were not observing it, although everything was exactly the same. So the factor there in the movement and change and shift was the consciousness of somebody watching and observing the atoms move. There's a lot here to think about. There's a real lot here to think about. It's just an incredible journey to be on here.
Yeah, I know. This is, like I said, this is very exciting times, and I'm glad we're at the age we are because, people like Stanton Friedman, poor guy, I wish he was around to see this. Thankfully, he was
Yes.
around for the Tic Tac and Gibble and Go Fast to come about. But, I know he would be very happy to know that there is a report coming. But again, I don't think there's going to be much. That's just what I'm hearing from contacts.
Yep,
Things
and I
can
think that's
change.
the safe bet.
Things can change. And sadly, a lot of politicians that I know, current and former, refuse to even talk about this still. Outside of those that were at the citizen hearing, and, I've had other people on, like Michael Dukakis, for instance. He doesn't want to touch this topic with a 20-foot pole. I actually had to postpone him for 2 years because the first approach was, hey, I've interviewed the politicians from the citizen hearing on disclosure in 2013, or I think it was 2013 or 2014, regardless, whatever it happened. And then I reached out to him because I met him at a fundraiser, back in law school, when he was trying to raise money for commies now, pretty much in California. That's what they are. I hate to say it, but it's true. But the point is that's where I met him. And I made sure I had his contact and stayed in touch. And when I first brought that up, he canceled the interview. I had to wait 2 more years. And he says, I only want to talk about foreign policy. Okay, fine. Come on. And that's what I wanted to do, just to keep engaged. That way, one day when things like this do happen, he's forced to finally say something.
That was smart thinking on your part too, and there are a lot of these people who have shied away, and for good reason. I mean, I've spoken to people that, were working in radio, and over the last, let's say, 20 years, make it somewhat recent, they're deciding to talk about one specific topic that's very sensitive in the world of ufology or, paranormal. These guys will be out on a site, working their day job. Guys will come up in a black Escalade, say, excuse me, can we have a word with you? And
Men in Black.
Excuse me. And they may be a faction. I believe that the Men in Black are a very tiered organization, wherein you have your low level lackeys and so forth that goes up.
They aren't even human. That they wear human like bodies, like we wear clothes, literally. That I've interviewed a Men in Black investigator, and he investigated that case. Was it in Canada or somewhere on the eastern seaboard, where those 2 Men in Black walk into that hotel? It's a very famous video. Everybody's seen it. Okay, well, he thinks that the Men in Black actually are non-terrestrial at all, and that's why they constantly have changed over the years and sometimes look more pointy-skinned with dark eyes and other times looking human. But even that case, he said that their eyes never blinked. Their eyes were bigger than normal, and they had no eyebrows, no hair whatsoever, and it looked like they were wearing wigs that were sort of glued to the hat that they were wearing. And the way they shuffled their feet was very awkward too. And of course, the people who interacted with them said like they felt like they were in their mind. And then here's the weird part. The guy who parked their car doesn't remember what kind of car it was. Can't describe it at all other than it being black. I mean, like, weird stuff is going on. So I don't know what to make about that. And I played the audio, if everybody was here for that broadcast. I actually played audio of Men in Black where they called and they sounded weird as fuck. I was like, what are these guys saying? Like, they made no sense. You should hear the frustration from the guy who received the call, because apparently he had just seen something and they paid him a visit the next day. And next thing you know, they called and he only got this recording because it was on the answering machine. So after the call hit the answering machine and he picked it up, it was still recording. It's just bizarre. I highly recommend, if anybody hasn't heard it, it's on my channel from about 3 years ago. It's just weird. I don't know what to make of it now. I used to always think it was just the subset of humans that wanted to keep it quiet. But now, see, here's the thing, Dave, Michael. I am more unsure than ever about UAPs and UFOs anymore. I don't know what they are. I mean, I believe there are ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles. I'm sure that we've made some progress since the 80s when Bob Lazar worked on the at S4. But for the most part, I think the ones that are coming in from the skies and dropping into our oceans, I don't think those are ours or anybody else on Earth. I don't think so. That's my opinion.
We talk about these crafts and we say, there may be a drone-like quality to them or some sort of scouting that they encompass that sort of trait. Now, with the Men in Black, it may be something similar, wherein these are bodies that are made specifically to interact with us in our environment, wherein, again, I'm building off of lots of research and things that I've heard people say in the way of these certain beings having etheric control over where their soul goes, or maybe planting it in certain bodies and so forth. It's possible that the reason they're so awkward is because there is an actual extraterrestrial energy or non-terrestrial energy in that body, just kind of trying to move it around. Like if you or I got into an astronaut suit right now, we'd look kind of clumsy. You know what I mean? And maybe we're seeing a biological drone of sort that acts more as a security or a defense for certain things. These particular beings, whether they're terrestrial or not, I think they're very much removed in the way of certain consciousness than perhaps what we know for the reptilians, the Palladians, the Syrians, some of these other higher consciousness beings that, again, we see the certain clumsiness. There's an imperfection about whatever they're doing with the Men in Black. So it's definitely something to think about.
And another interesting thing is Whitley Strieber mentions this is they make mistakes all the time. And I've heard that they are literally just clones, like AI drones, or AI clones, essentially, is what they are. Obviously, the progenitor race of them, I don't know what it is, but it seems like a lot of abductees talk about one ET on board being a little bit taller than the other grays, and seems to be the only one that has empathy and answers questions and, converses with the person. Although very short answers, that's just pretty much everybody said this. Even Barney and Betty Hill when they were taken, when Barney was shown that star map. So it's just, I just wonder why that's not being investigated by the UAP, by ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. What a name, huh? Anyway, there's a question here. I don't know if you see it from Lasha Senyak. Whatever happened to Majestic 12? Are they still a group or what?
Well, we kind of started to address that a little bit earlier, wherein you were saying that, obviously the generations have turned over. They may even carry a different moniker at this point. It may behoove them to do that because the Majestic 12, everybody has an idea of what that is. And there's a lot of conspiracy, of course, and for good reason, surrounding that name. And names carry vibration too. They do. And then perhaps it's not reflective of the project that they're doing now. But knowing about the inner workings of what's happening with those associated with the Majestic 12. That's difficult to discern. To say for sure what they're up to.
I think it makes sense to have changed the name, same way as they started referring to UFOs as UAPs and then recently AAVs. Why? So when you do FOIA requests and you search, say, anything Majestic in it, then you won't find anything, say, after the 60s or whatever generation, they changed their name. And I'm sure they changed their name more than once. Maybe every 10 years, maybe each time a generation dies out and there's a whole 12 new of them. I don't know the workings of it. I really would like to speak to somebody in that club, but it sounds like the DOD doesn't even know about them. That's why I say these special access projects are so locked up in the desert or God knows where, underground, or maybe even in other countries under our bases. You never know. I personally think that there is some ET bases underground. I'm not underground, underwater. It makes it very easy for them to monitor us because we can't even get to the bottom of the ocean for the most part. So if we can visit the moon and literally see light years out there with the Kepler and the Hubble but we can't even see what's at the bottom of our ocean. I wouldn't be surprised if they're out there watching us on top of the planet from down there, and occasionally send up a drone up here, take a good, walk over us or watching us or sending messages to our heads or whatever the hell they're doing.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll never forget the day that I watched Apollo 11 crew being after their mission.
Yes.
And the energy that each one of them, this sort of forlorn but really worried, concerned look, looking down a lot, no confidence in posture.
No eye
you
contact.
Might as well have no eye contact. You might as well have been at a funeral for all intents and purposes, the way that the energy felt in that whole conference. And we're talking a good period of time these gentlemen were sitting down. Now, I mean, if you were the first people to ever set foot on a celestial body, you would figure, I mean, all ego aside, you'd still be very excited about it because it's, if for no other reason, progress for humanity at that period in time. That's the way it was touted, you know? I'm not entirely clear. I've heard many different things that hold some varying between them in respect to what they may have seen, what they may have been told when they got there. Some people say they were told to leave. Some people say they just saw a full-scale fleet that kind of warned them to get off the moon. What are your thoughts on that and what you've researched and the people that you've gone through? Any insight?
I think, that Apollo 11 was being watched. I believe that when they landed, they did see craft watching them. And I believe that the entire trip from, the Earth to the moon, that they were being tracked and possibly followed. If you recall, one of those first Apollo, I don't remember the mission, but the astronaut said, I don't even know if it was Apollo, it might have been Gemini, but he talked about those fireflies, that seem to surround the ship, like having a mind of their own. So I don't know if they were biological or what. And then look at the ISS. Every time we see something good, boom, they cut the feed. Why?
Yep.
They're trying to hide something. And of course, they have the backup medical channel, so their doctors can communicate with them. But thankfully, you have some, radio operators here who catch those transmissions. So sometimes we hear what we're not supposed to hear, like we have an alien spacecraft, in observance, or Santa Claus is a code name that I've heard them say before. So, the astronauts have never really been truthful about what they've seen in space. I'm hoping that changes very quickly.
Oh, of course. I think we're all in that way of optimism. I mean, the truth here is also that, while people say that space is the last frontier, I would debate that entirely. I'd say it's probably the last physical frontier. But there's many implications here in the way of etherics that go into not just the immediate exploration of space, but all of these things that are around and what's going on with space itself. There are things that we're just learning. I still believe we're in the infancy of understanding a lot of this way of reality that we have. I mean, consider that maybe we are living in some sort of organic, energetic matrix. Well, if you're able to, figure out how to pluck the strings, so to say, then you pretty much can perform magic, or what appears to be magic, an action that has no logical following or, reason for acting in the way that we're familiar with. So this, again, is really, we're right at that point where, if I could bring it to something else that occurred in history, let's just say, for example, settlers coming from, Great Britain and so forth, coming over to America, we're just getting on that boat here. We're going on that journey, and we don't really know what's on the other side, and we're going to have to experience it together. But the question will be, in respect to these other species and races out there, how much interaction will they actually have with us? Will there be a time that they land in front of us like they did our ancestors and just gave us information or gave us the awareness of their presence? Where are they? Why are they allowing us to go through this alone in a certain respect when we are, I think, growing enough momentum in the way of interest that this is becoming something much, again, a larger scale. Maybe it's too immediate. Maybe we're just still getting that one foot out the door, and maybe we'll see it in 10 years.
You know, the irony is, ask any child or anybody in high school or in college, there is not one that doesn't believe there's not life out there. Whether they believe we've been visited or not, you know, that's a toss-up. But universally,
Right.
they believe that there is life out there for sure. And that's a great
absolutely.
change, because that was not the case in the 80s and 90s.
Or they just weren't expressing it as such. You know, I think a lot of these people know things that they'll just sit on the way that, you know, an average experience, or doesn't want to talk about the experience. Of course, they have more to, you know, perhaps be afraid of in the way of losing their job, or, you know, friends, family, ostracized, essentially. But, you know, when you're in a government faction which is overlooking a population, you know, there are certain responsibilities that you would have. And especially back then, when we didn't have certain communications in the way of the internet and so forth, we weren't connected. We were all very much in the dark about a lot of things, even what your neighbor might be doing that day. And today, you know, you can pop on, you can talk to them, you can figure these things out. Everything is much more accessible. So, you know, technology is certainly begetting the path of whatever disclosure we're finding, and it's very intimately entwined with what we're going to find out, I think, in regards to life on other planets and so forth. All we need is to find one microbe and say, hey, this is it. This is something not from the Earth. To say, okay, now we can look a little bit closer, you know, and really contemplate this as a reality.
Yeah. Okay, I got a message from Preston, everybody. He did screw up the date. Tomorrow. So everybody here who came for Preston, I do apologize. And when Michael has to go, I'll stick around, and then you guys can ask me whatever the hell you want, if you're interested. If you don't, I'll just end the stream. So you say something while I respond to Preston, saying no worries.
Sure. Absolutely. I'm glad that that got figured out. Occasionally, you know, these things do happen. I remember I made a mistake. Had a guest coming on. Last I knew in his bio, he was from the UK. Well, I guess he had been living in Chile for the last 11 months or so. So, I mean, I had messed the time. Time changes up on that as well. It happens, but that's okay. The most important thing is that people get back, and then, you know, we have another opportunity to sit down and speak with some of these folks, because, you know, as much as you guys might see these people come on our shows, we are actually taking away from their busy schedule, and they've taken time to incorporate, you know, what we're doing with what they're doing in terms of interest in production and getting this message out there. It's very, very awesome. And again, this is indicative of the time. I think it would have been much more in the way of work, I think, before everything happened over the last year and a half. But people are now accessible. And I think that, again, when we talk about the internet, we're now using it in more of an appropriate fashion than perhaps we started with. And of course, you know, everybody knows how much nudity is on the internet. So, I mean, again, we weren't using it to its full potential. We'll put it that way.
That's true. Here's a question. Lasha Senyak, sorry about that. Is it possible that the universe is teeming with life, none of which, however, is physical? Physical reality is the rare thing? What do you think?
Yeah. Absolutely. In fact, if we actually live in this moment wherein all things exist, just packed between different layers of vibration, if you're able to tune in like you do a radio station, that's what you're going to experience. Absolutely. I think that's what we're looking at. But there is also a physical element to this. I think if you were to get into the next overtone of perhaps a fourth dimensional reality, you're going to find undertones of physical existence too. It would be different from here. But I think to answer that person's question, I think, yes, absolutely. You're going to find both, though. You're going to see both.
Blake and Brent Cousins are here if you want to say hi to them.
Hey, guys. Okay. Good to see you.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here, man.
Okay, this is, I hope I said this properly, Rekan Havoc 215. What happens next when June 25th passes and the government does not disclose any information on ETs, which is what I think is not going to happen. They're not going to say anything about extraterrestrials at all. They're just going to allude to China, Russia, or something else. That's what I personally think is going to happen. That's my sense. Yeah,
listen, Rekan, great show on GoofOn last night, by the way. Guys, go and check that out. Fantastic story. He is an abductee that we've been following for quite some time here. But I kind of addressed this a little bit earlier, wherein again, a lot of people think what's going to happen is we'll get what we get, and that's it. We just fall off a cliff. That's it. There's no more career. We got everything we need. It's not the case. This is just a ticket into what comes next. And again, it'll be just this sort of false introduction. They're not going to give us enough to really create something more, but we're going to take the momentum that we've been rolling with, and we're going to continue flattening moving forward. This, again, is just the beginning. Don't worry about what they're actually going to give us or not give us. We'll see what's on the table at that point, but we're going to move forward the same way we always have and remain in the analysis and critical thinking because, again, this isn't even close to being over.
Yeah. Are you limited to an hour, did you say?
Yes, I can give you another 10 minutes, and I got to put the little ones to bed.
That's fine. Oh, hey, cool. I just got a super chat, Pyramid 7. I'll put that up for everyone to see.
Yeah,
thank
right,
you,
dude.
Pyramid. Yeah, thank you. You're a good friend. Appreciate that. Okay, so 10 minutes. Floor is yours, my friend. You talk. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about just something that's always interested me. We talk about cryptids, we talk about extraterrestrials. It's sort of a new thing, I think, in the way of these broader circles, that there may actually be a very intimate connection between the two. And Alex Oyen. God,
Oyen. Yeah.
He's going to talk a little bit about this in his experiences because he believes, or at least has expressed to me, that there may be some sort of slave race dynamic to some of these cryptids, which actually would play in part with what I've understood in the way of perhaps these beings not being native to the planet, or they were native to the planet far before our existence and creation being here, and this is why they've cultivated some of these cloaking possibilities, or just dipping in between vibrations again. Maybe we're the only ones who can't do that right now. Maybe we're the anomaly in the universe. So
yeah, that's true.
We got a question here, though.
Yeah, Pam Brandenburg, she does my social media. She asks, are you wearing a Moldavite ring? If so, how does it affect you?
Very good question. Actually, this is an onyx ring that I have on here, and some turquoise. I did have a piece of moldavite that I made into a necklace when I was in college. And I'm going to tell you, I wore this thing, and I was completely out of my mind when it came to being grounded. I was literally trying to sit in class, and my head was off in the sphere somewhere. I mean, I was God. I literally can't wear moldavite or even Herkimer crystals. They're just too powerful. I mean, there are times where I put it next to my bed, and that literally that night I would not sleep. There would be no sleeps to be had. I'd be traveling. I'd wake up even more tired than when I went to sleep. That's something that some of us are familiar with, but this was like to the excess. And I remembered everything so vividly about those travels. I said, okay, nope, I got to put these down. They got to, be used for certain purposes in the way of healing, but I cannot wear these on my person all the time. Some people who are very sensitive to that sort of thing, that's just the way it is. I mean, same thing with my watches. I didn't wear watches for years when I was growing up because
this is my watch. This is my damn watch. Days, that's all I need.
Well, I have watches, but I buy these at Walmart for $6 because I know they're going to eventually break. Something's going to happen. The energy's going to pop, and that's it. And that's where they go. So, it's a very good question, though, about the stones. That is something to certainly consider.
Because, the last person I had about those crystal skulls, I'm going to get one from him soon. So he's just trying to find which one is set for me, apparently. Interesting, though, that what he was able to read off of the energy, just off a photo of me, was very interesting. Very accurate, I got to say. So I'm very interested to see if that has any effect. If it doesn't, it's worth a try.
Oh, sure, man. And
I'd like to have a crystal skull. I kind of want the old ones, but that's never going to happen.
Well, he might be able to imprint your energetic signature into that crystal, because crystals themselves are energetic sponges, and they're technically record keepers. So, that being the way for him to take the time to say, okay, we're going to individualize this, we're going to find the right one for you. That that is the mark of somebody who knows what they're doing in respect to this. I used to walk around with this small purple plate in my pocket. It was about this big. And the idea was this particular alloy and the color that was painted on there, it would be something of high vibration. You could put it underneath your plate of food, or you purify your glass of water with it under a certain amount of time. It was like 5 or 10 minutes. And I held this thing for a very long time. Now, I did go to a reading some years ago, and this person worked predominantly off of that particular method. And there's a name for it. I don't remember what it is, but it's the tactile sense of reading this energy that's imbued with something that you wear on your body all the time. Could be a ring, could be a necklace. And I'll be honest, it was the first time that anybody had read me like this. I've had people say, oh, they pick up an object, I feel something off of this, maybe it's been here, it belonged to this person, so forth. Sure. But she did an entire reading right off of the energy that was imbued into this particular disc. And it was one of the most accurate readings I ever had. In fact, out of the 45 minutes I spent with her, there was only one thing that didn't resonate with me. And it took about a year and a half, and that one thing came to fruition. And I looked back and went, okay, holy crap. Wow. You know?
It's interesting how you talked about crystals being record keepers, because if you heard of, I forgot the name of the project, but what we did is essentially sent to the moon a crystal. And in this crystal, there are 800,000 images with instructions on how to build a computer. And then in a couple drops of liquid, there is enough information to have uploaded entire Wikipedia. And literally, that's sitting on the moon. I mean, it's so small. So the capacity that crystal has for memory is mind-blowing. I had no idea that we'd even reached that technology to get to this point, that we're actually leaving stuff in such a small, physical form, yet 800,000 pictures to build a computer. I mean, wow. I'd be interested on who finds that and who builds that computer. And all of a sudden, I hope it. I'm worried that AI is out of control too. That is another thing that we didn't touch about today, because what if...
Right, we should revisit that though. Yes.
These craft are AI, because according to Commander Fravor, when the Tic Tac was out there and he first saw it and he flew down to look at it, he said it turned and sort of looked at him. And then as he was flying down to it, spiraling down, it was mirroring his movements. It was clearly under control. But under whose control? I don't think it's human control. And again, swarming our Navy ships, if it was ours, why would you do that? You would fly it over Groom Lake, over some in the sea where the Navy's not somewhere. Why test it over populated areas, for instance? Especially in South America, they got so many UFOs happening all the time.
So brazen.
Why would you? It doesn't make any sense unless you're leading towards the disclosure. But
I have to agree with you on that.
Yeah, but I mean, what would that lead to disclosing? That they have alien reproduction vehicles, and which is not. They're not going to use that term, obviously, because the last thing they want to say is alien.
Well, I mean, if it is all of ours that we're seeing up there in the sky, and they're just becoming incredibly brazen about the exposition of this sort of thing, to me, that's just a big, hey, you guys don't know what we're doing. You're not going to figure it out. We're out doing our thing. As far as, it works for us, it's still intangible. I can't reach up there and touch the damn thing. I can't go over to one of these that land and just, kind of check it out and so forth. So, it will still remain in the way of verbal communication and video footage and pictures in our world, where in their world, it's so real that they're already taking action and doing what they're doing. But again, that's in supposition that these are only coming from us, which again, I don't believe that that's the case. I've thrown this number out there a few times. I think it's pretty accurate for what we've seen. I'd say about 80% of what we see in the skies belong to us. The other 20%, those are something else.
The real
ETs,
the real UAPs. Yeah. That's what I care about. That's the only thing I've cared about. I don't really care about what we've reproduced, back engineered. I'm interested on expanding on what they did after Bob Lazar left. I'm curious just to know the TR3B, how it functions,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm more
Sure.
interested in the craft that are occupied by these reptiles and these bug-looking things that sit with this giant ugly sack under them. I mean, I want to know about them, damn it. Show me more about them.
Yeah, dude.
We're not getting it.
I'm in agreement with that, but be ready.
Yeah.
We have to be ready. We integrate the technology first, wherever it comes from, and then we perhaps have a few more steps before we actually integrate the sentient, intelligent life that we've already been interacting with for years and years. Yeah.
Well,
but hey, listen, I want to thank you.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming on such short notice, because we were going to do this
anytime,
anyway,
man.
but it happened. So next time I'll give you even more notice. And
everybody
who respected Preston, sorry, he did fuck up, but he will be here tomorrow. Now, I normally never tell you when someone's coming, but since he was for today, expect him tomorrow. Michael, my friend, I'll catch you later. I'll have a smoke while you guys out there think of some questions to ask. Now, if you give me a minute, I can go grab my burner, and then you guys can call that, or just call my secondary phone. I left the phone number in there, or just type your questions and I'll answer. We'll see what you guys want to go. So, Michael, you have a good one, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you very much, Dr. J. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that we got a chance to sit down in a public forum and discuss this, because we have such great conversation behind the scenes. I think sometimes it's nice for people to hear. So thank you for thinking of me, and I'm glad that I could help you out tonight. Anytime, brother, just hit me up, and if I'm able, I'll be here for you.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you, and have a good one.
Cheers.
And a good show,
Thanks,
too.
guys.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. You too. Fantastic show, man.
I'll
talk to you soon, brother.
Done. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, people. So what do you want to ask me? I'm going to sit here and smoke and wait for a question. Here, you can call this backup phone here. I don't have my burner smartphone, but here's the number if you want to call it, because I can give you my call-in number, but I don't think the audio is going to catch with this program. So here's the number. Feel free to call, and I'll get you on speaker so everybody can hear what you got to say. That's all you want. Just don't cuss at me. And be nice to each other. That I care about the most. No one needs to be mean. Okay, is anybody going to say any question at all? Any comment? Ask me anything. Yeah, this is StreamYard. What is my favorite story? Wow, good question. Okay, here. Linda Cortiel, definitely. See, it's kind of hard. It's like picking children. Linda Cortiel is my definite favorite story, but at the same time, there's some crashes and retrievals that are not necessarily publicly known. For instance, well, that's Pam. Let's see what Pam's got to say. A California case in the early 50s of a crash and retrieval that happened in San Diego, where it was shown on TV and a couple saw it, and immediately as the person started talking about this like 18-inch being tenderly treated at the hospital in San Diego, they cut the feed, and that was on national TV. So, Pam, you're on the air. What say you?
Hey, John, how you doing?
All right. What do you have to say to everybody?
I wanted to check in and see what the rest of the plan was for this evening.
Hey, you're on Mom Live, Pam, just so people are asking questions. So ask something or I got to go to the next call.
I couldn't hear you.
Ask something or I got to go to the next call.
Okay, I want to know, did you get some Motivite yet?
No, I'm waiting for you to get it.
Let Doc know if he pairs his Motivite with black tourmaline, it will calm down.
Okay, I will pass that info to him, but he's gone, as you can tell, for now. But thank you, and no, I'm waiting for you to get that Moldavite, and let me know when you get it.
Okay.
Okay.
I've got a lot of it here.
All right, good. All right, Pam, thanks.
It's very extraterrestrial.
Yeah, I know. Well, if it's a meteorite, that's sure it is. Obviously, it didn't originate on planet Earth. Well, thank you, Pam. Let's go to the next call. So, Ring it up. 818-269-3264. Okay, how quickly do these UFOs or UAPs travel so quickly, or how? Well, personally, I believe in Bob Lazar's story. I believe it is with gravity, because these are reactionless craft. We're used to essentially a plane, right? What does a plane do? You use thrust in the back to push it forward. Well, these craft essentially make forward down, and the craft travel like they're falling down at terminal velocity. That is the understanding I have of these craft. Now, if there is something else at play here, like dark energy or something like that, I'm not sure, but the closest thing that I've been able to understand, it is gravity. Anybody else? Have I ever heard of pyramid power? No. I'll look into that. No phone, no problem. Tell me about the abduction and the limo. Okay, that was Linda Cortiel. You need to hear that interview. It should be posted here on Facebook. Not Facebook. What am I talking about? They booted me off that fucking platform again for the third time. Find me on Minds, by the way. No, it's up here on YouTube years ago. And it's either Linda Cortiel's in the title, or it's like abductee is seen by attorney or the EU, or no, not the EU, the UN Secretary General, something like that. I'd have to find you the link, but it's buried up there, 400 plus interviews back. It's about 2013, 2014 era, maybe 2015. So we're talking a few years ago, quite a few years ago. And I'll bring her back soon so you guys can hear that story, because it is a very, very interesting story. And the fact that it's backed up by somebody observing it. And that wasn't just a limo. There was other motorists on the Brooklyn Bridge that saw that craft hovering out there and saw these beings literally float out a window, and then an adult woman floating out a window into this craft hovering in the sky. Very creepy. And the fact that it was watched by people that were not part of the abduction is why I give so much deference to that case. Anybody else? Yeah. Fuck Facebook. I'm with you on that one. I wouldn't be surprised if the agency or NSA use it. It's pretty scary and freaky. I believe this generation of people that grew up with Facebook is the neck down generation. They're going to have such bad neck problems, so many car accidents, and so many times people are going to be crossing the road looking down on their smartphones, and then boom, they'll get hit and killed. That's why I call it the, looking down generation. It's kind of scary. Hey, and do check out Minds, by the way. Turns out all the Ethereum tokens, they have now start paying you directly cash just for using like Facebook. So if you literally just use it like Facebook, you get paid. It's blockchain technology. It's based on Ethereum. And now they've even upgraded it so you don't have to even take the Ethereum and sell it to Coinbase or any of the crypto wallets out there and convert it to cash. No, now it's literally converted to cash for you on the site. Plug in your bank info and cash out whenever you want. Dark Waters is here. What up, Dark Waters? He tells great stories. You guys got to hear my interviews with him. He's awesome. He could take the scariest story and make it sound really cool. Yeah. Okay. Who else got me? Pam's got my new Facebook page. There you go. Let's hope I don't get kicked off again like I did on Twitter and Instagram. So it turns out I have a second Instagram account, and I got in a login attempt that someone from Thailand is operating. I don't know, because there was only one person I was following on there anyway, and now it says I follow 300. I am out of control with that account because I've tried to take it back multiple times, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's an AI bot or some hacker out there took control of it. So yeah, don't plan on looking for me on Instagram and Twitter. I did open another Twitter account. It's basically Dr. J Radio Live new. We'll see how long before they kick me off that one too. It's a shame just because I've interviewed certain people. Mario UFO, what What up, Dr. J? What up, Mario? How you doing? Okay, and what did you do to get kicked off of Facebook? What did I do? I literally nothing. Pam only posted links to the show. I never was on Facebook. I interviewed Roger Stone. I interviewed Jerome Corsi a couple times, and I interviewed General Flynn's brother. That was enough to get me kicked off Facebook, because the mere mention of President Trump or his image or his likeness or his voice is enough to get you banned on social media. Sadly, that's the kind of world we live in. The President of the United States, you can't even say his fucking name without getting deplatformed. That's what happened. It's a shame. It's very shame, because, you know, it's supposed to be a free country. It was, at least until a year ago, 6 months ago, really. January is when things really started to get bad. Okay. Ratcliffe says it's real. Obama says it's real. Navy pilot says it's real. Pentagon says it's real. People, it's not real. Red bunnies. I like what you said. That is definitely true. And is Ratcliffe? No, he's not CIA director. He was DNI, Director of National Intelligence under Trump. I hope I don't get busted for that, by the way. Have I heard of Theta TV, Free Speech and Blockchain Network? I have not, but there are so many platforms these days. I'm afraid to open more. Initially at Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest, things I didn't even use. And Pam does have an open Facebook group and for all updates. So check it out. She created a new one for me. Thank God. And I hope it stays that way, because it's pretty shameful what they've done. Okay. Anybody else want to call here? I'll type in the number again. And again, real questions, and be nice. You could ask me anything about anything. Yes, I am answering. Here, take your time. I'll light up another cigarette because I'm getting bored here. I love talking to you guys. I just want a better question that I can answer you guys. Let's see, more comments coming up. That's the number. Yeah, that's the number. That's right. That is the number. Just call it and I'll answer it right now. Now's the time. It's one of the rare times I'm actually giving you a number. I do have a dedicated smartphone for this purpose, but unfortunately it's not in front of me. So you're actually getting my real number, which I'm going to have to remove after this live stream because I don't want it out there. I get enough random calls all the time. Anybody? Okay. How much longer will you stay on the stream? Let's see. Oh, Nicholas Cashmore. Mr. Cashmore, welcome. Let me turn up the volume. Nick, you there? Yeah, there you are. Okay, I got you on the speaker. Apparently, I don't know why the other phone is not catching you, but you're on here. How you doing?
Always be yourself.
Better today than I was, that's for sure.
Right on.
So,
Live?
you're live, man. You're live to everybody.
I want to know what these all these beings are doing here with with humanity. Why they would show themselves.
Personally, honestly, I think they're walking amongst us right now. I honestly think they're walking amongst us because David Jacobs' last book was Walking Amongst Us. And what happened was, in the last 20 years of him researching and dealing with abductees, he found that the new generation of hybrids looked so close to humans. When people were abducted, all of a sudden, instead of going through traditional medical experience and stuff like that, they were giving scenes like a grocery store and asked, what do you do in there? And of course, the humans would talk about buying food. Then when they would show them like a front door, like, what do you do to get in? Like they didn't know how to use a lock or a door handle or how twisting it to open the door, things like that. Or they were showing a scene of a kitchen. What do you do? What I got the impression is that they were training to walk amongst us, integrate in this society without us knowing. So I am pretty confident that there are ETs right now on this planet that look like us that probably are right around us all the time. So
UFOs are bringing them here, and then they have to learn how to be human.
essentially, they're being taught how to be human in these abductions, and then they are brought here. Yes, that's what I've come to understand from David Jacobs. See, unfortunately, I can't interview him anymore because he's got dementia, advanced dementia, and he doesn't remember anything anymore. But the last couple interviews, you should definitely check him out and read his book, Walking Amongst Us. It's pretty powerful information if that's the case.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Johnny Mac, the guy was a legend.
What'd you say?
Johnny Mac is a legend.
Yes, John Mack is a legend, and I find his death to be very, very unusual. I mean, he'd been to the UK multiple times. You kind of got to be really stupidly drunk to not know and remember that cars drive on the opposite side of the street. So it's a very fishy death to me. Now, is it possible it's just an accident? Absolutely. You have no evidence to disprove that. But again, it just, such a genius of a man to be killed in such a stupid way is kind of shocking to me. That's all.
Well, Mac is a professor of Harvard. He has under quite a bit of scrutiny about, his assessment and studying of these experiencers.
And remember, Daniel Sheehan, is it Daniel Sheehan? Yeah, the attorney. He had to represent him because Harvard wanted to fire him based on his work, which is pretty sad. Just goes to show you the treatment that professors got for talking about abduction. I want to speak to Avi Loeb because I want to know how he's being treated at Harvard because of what he said about Oumuamua.
Yeah, well, it's credible the bomb with the 62 children we went there. That's how I learned from him.
The what? Repeat that?
His character is incredible. Like he just wanted to understand what's going on ultimately, right?
Yeah.
He was a bit rebellious and not fear,
Yes. So, any other questions or comments?
Another question for me. I just want to say you're the best, Dr. J, and hope you keep doing shows like this where people call in and all these different guests and just keep at her every week something, because I really miss your shows and they bring so much light, and I just love them. So I really appreciate you, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the comments. And yes, I have stuff planned this week.
Have a great rest of your show, buddy.
Thank you so much, Nick. I'll talk to you soon. All right. Cool. All right. Let's see what else we got up here. Let's see. He has tenure. He doesn't care about what people are saying. It's true, but he's pretty out there. Okay. LTT wings. Isn't Earth's magnetic field one way that UFOs are able to manipulate their flight with such ease? Well, I don't know about that, but I can tell you that some of the crashes apparently are because of our old radar systems, which screw up their navigation. Another thing is, I don't know if it's the magnetic field, but our own gravity on this Earth varies, obviously. So they have, if they're being in fact operated by gravity, and then they come to Earth and the gravity here is pulling them down, then you have another force that they have to counteract. And so that too can be possible why there were crashes. So many in the 50s, far more than people actually know. Read Preston's books, all of them, every single one, because every state that he's covered, there are far more many crash and retrievals than anybody's ever known. I think just alone in California, he found 10 plus. It's pretty insane. And they're very credible because each of them has an eyewitness, whether it be the broadcaster, the guy standing in front of the craft that was stuck in the ground with, like a disc, sticking in like the sand with part of it sticking outwardly. Just credible people. That book, UFOs Over California, was one of the huge factor in what I realized is really out there. And that's why when I started this channel, actually, right long before the start of this channel, when I started this show, Preston Dennett was my original co-host. It only lasted a couple of months because we could move to the time slot, which is fine because I ended up doing it alone. But I always come back to him when I take a couple of weeks off because good to, he knows so much information. And obviously everybody's booked up because of this upcoming report, which again, I don't think everybody should be getting too happy about because I don't think we're going to get that much. I think we need to be shown stuff like this. I know this is only a replica from the Roswell. It's not even to the scale, but we should have the ability to visit the Roswell Museum, a real one, and see the actual crash and bodies. And that shit should belong to us. But obviously, this government doesn't think so. Okay, what else? Anybody here? Yeah, the Max story. That is so weird. I agree. The death. Okay. I don't know what you're talking about. 10102. It doesn't know. Who says it's the government? Nobody, not me. You're right. I don't know. I think it's private factions within the government, actually. People with money that are able to make some sort of contribution to this. People with aerospace technology. That's why Robert Bigelow may very well be in possession of one of these craft because of the fact that he has a couple private space stations and contracts with NASA all the time and had owned Skinwalker Ranch for almost 20 years. Yes, please do write capital letters. That makes it so much easier to identify questions versus comments. Anything else? Gosh, I wish, next time I'll use Skype because there's a Skype number and therefore you guys can hear those calls better. The problem is I'm worried that if I give you the Skype number, no one will hear you. We can give it a shot. Let me give you the Skype number and I'll try and see what happens there. I'll tell you what the current one is. Let's see, Skype. Is it this one? Let me tell you right now. Yes. Okay, ready? Here is the Skype number. Close this out. And it is 818-221. Now, we'll find out on the next call if everybody can hear you closer so I don't have to actually use the phone. Try that number, somebody. Do I think aliens are a threat? Good question. No, honestly, I don't think they're a threat because if they were, we would have been killed a long time ago. I think them coming over our submarine bases, our nuclear silos and shutting them down was more of an act to show that they can take control of them. And if they wanted to kill them, they would have probably let that one that they started to launch and then stopped it the last few seconds or however many seconds were left in that countdown. Let it go, but they didn't. I don't know what to make on human mutilations. I think I have a pretty understanding of why they're cattle mutilations based on that interview I had with Ricky G. It makes sense that they, use cattle to feed the human hybrids because, they need milk like every other human baby does, and they need beef. What better way than to just take them from Earth, kill them, take what parts they need, and what parts they need for research and cloning or whatever, and then bring them back bloodless. That's just an option. I don't know how to bring other people to StreamYard because, I would have to copy a link, and it would be a lot more difficult. I could try here. I don't know how this will work, but just remember, you're going to be on video. So if you want to come on to StreamYard. Here's the link. Ooh, no. Yeah, try that. Do you think we all have maybe a mix of ETs? Absolutely, Bridget Ladd. Yes, I do think we are all a mix of ETs. Rich from Goofon actually had an interesting point. He said that it's possible every single person has been abducted that we just don't recall. If I've ever been taken, I have no memory whatsoever. I've never had any dreams of ETs, no landings, nothing like that. Yeah, I've seen two things in the sky in massive sightings in the 80s and 1990. I don't know what to take of what I saw in Robert Bingham 9 years ago, but something came up, looked like a balloon or an orb. I don't know. But yes, I do believe what Bob Lazar and Linda Moulton Howe said, that the ETs came and made 63 external corrections to already evolving primates, which ultimately led to Homo sapiens. And now we're undergoing our 64th corrections, which the new generation of children is technically going to be titled, according to Linda and a few other people. Dr. Roger Lear was one of them, proposed this, which is Homo nueticus. I don't know if that's the case, but I do believe that we all are a mix of ETs. And it's possible that it's in our DNA. And hopefully one day, I don't know what it's going to take to activate that or follow that, or I don't know. I'm not a geneticist, but there are people that say that it's in our DNA and something's going to activate it somehow or decode it, whatever. But yes, I do believe that we all are a mix of ETs, at least some of them. Okay, what's next? Let me remove that hide. Okay. Regarding hybrids, let's see what you got to say. Regarding hybrids, don't you think the younger the children are now, they are so smart and talented early in life? That's exactly what I'm saying. Homo nueticus. They are mind-blowingly smart and super intelligent. My goddaughter, the father's not the smartest man, great guy, very loyal friend, but his daughter, so ultra intelligent. It's like, where does she even get these thoughts that she thinks sometimes? Because obviously what she watches is very controlled. And because of COVID, I hope, great. I said the C word. I hope this doesn't kick me off using that word. Anyway, she never had a chance to start school. And she literally was homebound because she's got no siblings, and she's got a cousin that lives not far, but about 10 years older than her. So she's not interacting very much with other children. And there's only so much she can learn from Disney, but she's talking about things like life and death. I mean, and she was saying these things at age 3 and 4. She's already 5 now. So it's just mind-blowing. That's just one child, by the way. Every child is so ultra smart now that I'm not surprised that if they are manipulated, I think that's a great point, LTT Wings. Thank you, Ash, for saying that. Okay, let's see what else here we got. Yeah, we are the newbies on the block. Yeah, apparently we're 0102. I believe that is the case. Not just the newbies, but the cavemen newbies. Apparently we're pretty stupid. Uh-oh. What happened to my camera? Oh, no. Give me a sec here. Let's edit. Son of a gun. Settings on the camera. I want to know why it does this all the time. There you go. Okay. All right. Let's look for more. The sun is very fucking hot here in Southern California. Growing up in the 80s, when it was 102, we would complain. When it's 102, we pray that it doesn't get any hotter. 3 years ago, so we're looking at 2018, we had, at the time, the hottest day in the San Fernando Valley, if you all know where that is. where it was 117 here, yet in Death Valley was 115. That was a record for sure. Now, the year after, 2019, was fairly cool. 2020 comes. Well, great. We have 122 last summer. So I hope it doesn't get that hot this year. But today was over 100. So yeah. Why space is cold, I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a vacuum. I honestly don't know that answer to that question. But good question about the sun. Now, do I believe in global warming? No. I do believe that the Earth has cycles. I think that if we've made any damage to the Earth, it's probably no more than 1% or 2%, if that. Earth has cycles, and people are talking about global warming. What they're not telling you is that as more of these ice caps melt, that what's going to happen is we're going to have a massive freeze because the ice is going to decrease the temperature in the water, the seas, which will get colder, and then this will trigger a new ice age. Now, this will take hundreds of years or thousands to happen, but top scientists are now saying that this might be the coolest year in 121 years. So I guess we'll find out at the end of the summer if they're accurate on that one. Okay. Thank you for mentioning Linda Moulton. How, yes, she is a fucking amazing. And I don't want to promise anything. Just all I'm saying is pay attention to this channel this week, because I may have something happen. Yeah, I don't want you to get your hopes up, because if shit does happen, I've had many times where someone was scheduled and something happened. Look at what happened with Preston today. He wrote down the wrong date. So I don't want you guys to get hopes up. But just if you want Linda, pay attention to the next day after her stream. And if you don't see her here, don't be mad, please. Okay, what else? Let me see, what's this question? What do you think about spacecraft we see going into and out of the sun? Well, I think that they might be going there to get energy. Same reason why we always see them by like light poles, not light poles necessarily, but power lines. And a lot of times if you see them right by the sun, you see like solar, like not like flares, but like something connecting from the sun, like maybe like a solar flare. It's like literally feeding into the craft, like sucking energy. So I don't know if they're powering their craft or what. But yes, I do believe, I don't know if they're going into the sun as opposed to just going close enough where we can't see them, any more than that outside of getting that energy. But then again, I don't know. Could they be going into it? Very possible. Like I said, see, everything that I thought I knew really has changed this year because I've had to expand my mind so much that nothing surprises me anymore. Yes, LMH, yes, she rocks. She's actually one of my mentors, my biggest mentors, Third Phase of Moon. If it wasn't for them 9 years ago, I'd be practicing law. That's a fact. And Linda Moulton Howe, and definitely Stanton Friedman, the godfather of ufology. Those are the biggest influences on why I do what I do today. Okay, what else? The grand solar minimum began last year. My guess is the next 50 will be cooler due to the solar cycle. I agree. I hope so. I really hope so, because it's been pretty freaking hot. Okay. When one of these ETs worshipped as God one day, look back at the deception of these beings. There is good and bad ETs. Oh, yes, yin yang. I believe that absolutely. And I believe that it's possible that these grays, they do want our souls. I've interviewed quite a few people who've wrote books, literally the whole book. I forget his name. I have to find it. Nigel something. Anyway, he wrote Alien Greys and the not the stealing of souls. Anyway, it's something like that. But yes, I do believe that. Can you call Preston Dennett now? No, he's busy. He's not on a show tonight. He did something today, but he did respond that he did screw up the date. and had me down for tomorrow, which sucks. But he'll be on tomorrow. He's never flaky. He just, shit happens. Okay, anybody else? So no, I'm sorry, Nick. I can't call Nick right now. Am I married? No, I'm single. I kind of miss that. But I'm available. That's for sure. What else? Anybody else? Let's see this one. Yeah, we definitely did damage. Yeah, that's for sure. Yes, we are out of balance with nature, and we are very greedy and selfish. That is absolutely true. We're flawed. We are very flawed, but at the same time, we have a lot of good qualities. And I think some of the good ETs probably are interested in our social life, things that they probably don't have anymore, or attributes like love. Maybe they don't know how to love anymore. I think that's a very possible that it's a case. Okay. Can I check your earlier question? What is your earlier question? Let me back it up and see. Goof on fan club. Where is that question? Nope, I don't see it. You'd have to rewrite it. Yeah, please rewrite the question in caps, please. If I missed it, I apologize for that. Oops, hold on. And let's bring back the common ones. Okay. Yes, I believe there are a lot, and I do believe it's possible. When she said that we have been visited for 270 million years, I'm not surprised at that at all. At all. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. I won't slow down, that's for sure. I can go as long as you guys want me to, honestly, today. Only thing I have to do is run to the ER after I think I broke this hand again, but that's kind of a personal thing. Okay, anything else? Anybody, anything here? God, this is kind of awkward. Well, try that Skype number, somebody, if you want to try that call. I left the StreamYard link in here if anyone wants to grab it, because I could pull you in. But it is going to take you to video unless you turn your camera off. Who else? Thank you, Dorothy. I appreciate that. You're awesome too. Beautiful eyes, by the way, Dorothy. Very beautiful. That depends. Where do you live and how old are you? Maybe. How about that? I'll give you a maybe on that one. I don't want to say yes before I met someone. That's the big factor right there, obviously. But here, you do have my number now, so use it. Yes, great question, Nicholas. Here, let's write it. Okay, here. What would I ask? It's a tough one. Well, honestly, I'd be scared shitless. I honestly really would be scared. I was talking with the brothers last night, the cousin brothers, about when they come here, about going on a road trip and taking a stop at Stardust Ranch, since I've been invited to go there. But he did say be very grounded because the place is very powerful. So I think I'd be too scared initially, but once the fear came down, I think I would ask, can you take me and show me your home? That's what I want to say first, the very first thing. That's probably my first question is, can you show me where you live? I'm very interested I want to see, what do their worlds look like? Is it true that it's very colorless, tall buildings, does not resemble anything that we have here? That's something I'm very interested in. And also another question is, are they reason that they're not picking up crashed bodies and beings or vehicles? Is it because they're leaving it here for us as like to sort of speed up our technological revolution? Or is just they don't care because they know we're not going to be able to figure out the technology. So that's another question I'd ask them. But the first one, definitely about their world. The maglev tube shuttles under USA. A physicist worked on them. Oh, yes. The maglev rails, they're all underground from what I hear, all over, connecting Edwards, say, to Groom Lake. That's for sure. Yeah, I didn't know your father was a physicist. Okay. How can we be healed? Great question. I need to be healed. Yeah, that's sure. Okay, what's this question? Did you see the beings in the turkey? Yeah, you bet. I was great friends with Dr. Roger Lear. Man, it's such a shame that he died. Very, very humble guy. And he used to love my family's restaurant. So we'd come there a lot and talk. And he wasn't just a friend. He was like a second dad to me. You know, he'd call me and give me woman advice or, random talk. And so when he first obtained that footage, I was one of the first to see it. Yes, that's fantastic footage, by the way. At that time, I think it was the best footage of ETs that was confirmed because he was on the boat when it was being filmed. That's why I give that's so much credibility to him. Great man indeed. It's a shame that I didn't get more interviews out of him because, his work schedule prevented him from getting in these shows. But I do have some of my oldest interviews that you guys probably have never heard unless you listened to me in 2012 and 2013 and 2014. They've never been posted anywhere because they're sitting on some terabyte external drive that I was going to upload to my site. See, that is my backup platform, my website. Okay, what else? Yeah, no worries, Lasha. Go. Fucking camera. All right, let me try to fix this again. Sorry, folks. There's no reason it should be doing this. Oops, there we go. Okay. Right, what else here? Whoa, stop. Sorry, it keeps knocking me off for no reason. Yeah, no way. Don't tell me. You're talking about, okay, that was Roger Lear, Leir. John Lear is still alive. The only reason I haven't had him on recently is he believes that Trump will be president before the 4th of July. No way. It's not going to happen. Legally, even though the recounts in Arizona triggers more recounts in other states, and it's shown that Dems stole the election, that fucker already took office. He already took Biden took the oath. It's not going to change anything. The only way to change it is Trump to run for Congress in 2022 and then come back and be voted as speaker, get Pelosi out, and then impeach Biden and the camel, or camel head, whatever you want to call her. She's just a terrible attorney. I knew when I was in law school, she was a DA. Anyway, point is impeach the both of them, and then he would get back into office, so he wouldn't have to wait till 2024. That's the best chance of getting him back. So till I get him off of thinking that, I can't get John Lear on, but it's going to happen hopefully soon enough. What's best now? I don't know what's best now. I don't know. There's a lot of great topics I like. Is it possible ETs are AI? Yes, absolutely. I believe the small grays are AI, and I believe it's possible that some of those gimbal or go fast. See, the go fast or the gimbal video actually looks very similar to the sport model, and the way it rotates is exactly like Bob Lazar also talks about. Now, that one may be piloted, but something like the Tic Tac may very well be a drone that is AI. I think that is a huge possibility. And I think we made a huge mistake. Elon Musk tried to warn us about this AI, but we screwed up. And We should have never, ever, we should have never let the genie out the bottle because we can't take it back. Okay, what's this? Yes, I think so. I think they do. Because after you encounter Sasquatch, apparently you start having, what's this phenomena that Linda says all the time? Strange, what is it? What is it? It's high strangeness. High strangeness starts to happen, and like lights turn on and turn off, you know. So something by their interaction affects you in that way. Okay. The Earth is round. No, I believe the Earth is definitely round. I don't believe that the Earth is flat. I believe that those NASA pictures of Earth are real. There's been some photoshopping probably to remove some, craft that have been observed. Like, for instance, the moon. I interviewed a guy from NASA who actually was the guy who had to color out the base, the so-called ET base. I don't know if it's ET or human. Honestly, at this point, I don't know what it is. It's very possible that, if General Ished said that we have a base on Mars, that we work with ETs, that there's a chance that we have already colonized the moon. I'm not saying that you can breathe air on it. Actually, you can take a first breath on any planet, but it'll be your only breath you ever take on that planet, unless, of course, they have oxygen. Okay. But I do think that's an interesting topic. I'm going to have a debate sometime, Dorothy. I'll have a physicist debate a flat earther. I did that for Art Bell. I booked a debate between the two. Ironically, one of the two shows I've only ever heard from him, and I booked him. Okay. Let's see. It's this. We're say. I had beings came to me. They were in my room during my sleep paralysis, but I tell you, I was wide awake but paralyzed. Do you think it's real? Yeah. Now, I get sleep paralysis all the time, and that all that is your body, your eyes wake up before your body does. If you didn't have whatever causes sleep paralysis, then all your dreams, you'd act out. You literally would be acting out, sleepwalking and breaking stuff all the time. That's the only reason why our body paralyzes itself when we sleep. Now, waking up and seeing beings is a whole different phenomenon. And I don't like it when researchers try to block it up and say, oh, every abduction story is sleep paralysis. No, because I have sleep paralysis all the time, and I don't see anything strange in the room. It just takes a moment before I could actually move. So that's that. Yes, I like this one here. Short grays are AI controlled platforms to perform duties. I 110% agree with that. But somebody is in charge of them. But yes, they are that. Okay, what does this say? Just saying, I've seen some things, and they're all very different in nature, but 50 some odd. The movie Men in Black was a truth drop. Probably. Very, very, people say, skeptics say that we imitate what movies do. It's actually the other way around. Movies imitate what we do. So this whole notion that the only reason we think of grays is because Hollywood showed it. Well, we've been seeing grays on oil paintings and cave paintings for thousands of years before Hollywood got to it. So, yeah, I think it is definitely a truth drop. Anything is a truth drop that has to do with things like that. What is this saying? Yeah, Art was a fun person. Better friend than a boss, that's for sure. Miss him dearly. I need a national expo. Yeah, we could do that. That's easy to do. We can do that. It's ironic because virtual ones are happening right now. That'd be so easy to set up. But I think we should do it in person. Tired of this mask stuff. What's this? Yeah, no worries. I got it. I saw it. Okay. Oops. Would aliens have the answers to afterlife? Well, I don't know, but I had a near-death experience, and there were no aliens. Actually, I don't know. The first part of it, I never really say much about it because I don't know what to make of it. But before I had the part where I interacted with someone who'd been dead for 30 years, and I never thought of them after they died, and really had no relation outside of that person being a friend of my father. And I was just young, and it was one of the first deaths I knew of, because one day he's there and next day he's not there. Anyway, the first part, according to Yvonne Smith, she believes it was something to do with aliens because in my head, what I recalled was that it looked like an RV, like a bug, like a Volkswagen RV, right? A 60s style. But when I got in, there was like circular and there was bench on the wall and nothing else. Yet what I thought was short Mexicans that were bald headed were actually very weird looking. But I don't want to say that was alien at all. I just don't know what to make of it. So I kind of leave that part out. But that was the first part of the near-death experience. The second part was the most fascinating. I'll never forget that. That's for sure. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if in the afterlife you meet them. That's for sure. What do aliens eat? Yes. If you recall, that was asked of Ricky G. We don't know. I don't think those clones, they eat grays. I don't think they eat anything at all. I don't think they have to. But those bigger ETs that must eat something, I don't know. I don't know what they eat. That's a very good question. Some people say adrenal glands. I don't know. I really don't know what to say of that. I don't think they eat humans. Because if that's the case, then there'll be a lot more less of us on this planet. Okay. Yeah, no worries. I'll get off soon if you guys got to go see Gufon. I don't like to interrupt friends' shows, so I try to get off before he's on. So I should probably go. Yeah. Short, bald Mexicans. There's a lot of Latin Americans in California, specifically from Mexico because of the border. So yes, Mexicans, not Latin Americans, but straight Mexicans. That's what first, when I had the near-death experience, I felt that I was on PCH. And I don't know why. I just knew I was there. And as I was walking on the street, and the side where the beach would be was blocked by a building, and then there was a van or bus, or a Volkswagen van that I walked into. I don't know why. And that's what I saw. The impression I had was that they were, very short, like 3.5 foot tall, really large head Mexicans. But I'm not saying they're aliens, because the next part, the people that I interacted with were 110% human looking. Okay. What else? They all have small mouths, so I think they are vegetarian. Some people have actually said that as well. But then again, it's possible they don't eat at all. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. It just depends on which ETs we're talking about. Okay, let's make it like 5 more minutes so I can get off to let Rich start. And I know Blake and Brent got something going on soon too. So, well, Dorothy Lang, listen, you got my number now, so use it. And everybody else, I guess, I want to thank you all. Now, I'm sorry Preston didn't make it. My dream interviewee. Ooh, great question. Edward Snowden. And I've been working on that for years. Come close a couple of times. Now, obviously, he turned me down for Joe Rogan. Who wouldn't? He's got the audience. That's my dream interview. My next dream interview is Bob Lazar. And my way to make that happen is to make his world very small. I've had James Goodall on. I've had John Lear on. I've had Jeremy Corbell on. Next, I'll have George Knapp at some point. Make the world of his very small that he feels comfortable enough to come on the show. That's the way I'm going to approach Bob Lazar. So those are the 2 dream interviews I have. And then 3, President Trump. It'd be great to interview him. It'd be fun. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, what's this? Thank you, Mario. Because a lot of them weren't seen as much back then, and there's a whole new audience now that needs to see some of the good stuff. And they had to go through all their old stuff because of Third Phase UFO Report, which is on Amazon Prime. And if you notice, on the first season, I'm in a lot of videos because a lot of them were filmed when they came out to California. Okay. So that's why that's happened. Best UFO and beings footage. Well, that turkey footage is really, really amazing. After that, 90s, 97 or so in Mexico City, that saucer that's like literally very up and close and like wobbly. That's another amazing video. It's just so many. It's like picking children. It's hard. What's your favorite? Okay. Tease was your second part of your experience. Okay. Oh, you don't hear that interview. Okay. Okay. So then after I exit that van, all of a sudden the buildings disappear. And then here's where it gets really strange. So then I start walking towards the beach, and as the wind blows, it's like the wind had an essence of sunlight in it. So the stronger the wind blowed, the more blinding I would get. It's like literally, it's like heaven, right? You know, light at the end of the tunnel. And I see the sea. It's so beautiful and sparkling water because the rays of the sun and the wind have like an essence of light toward it. And I see a small like fishing boat type beach on the sand. And I remember one man standing up, and I don't know very much about the two that were sitting, but one was a woman. It's possible they both were women, but one for sure was. And they were sitting, and this was weird because why was it on the beach instead of in the water or docked somewhere? And this would have been like Malibu or Long Beach or San Pedro. So I walked to the boat and stepped on board. And now, again, every time the wind blows, like I'm going blind. And so I'm talking to this gentleman, you know, he's got, beard and mustache. And I realized I recognized him. And it's like 5 or 7 minutes of talking. I don't even remember what we're saying. But I finally made the realization, and I said, "Didn't you die in 1988? And he smiled and he said, "Yes." And then the wind started to get very strong. And all I see is light. And then boom, I'm awake. And I immediately tell the doctors that I just had the strangest dream. And they said, you had no brain activity. So that was the near-death experience. I could also explain to you why life flashes, or your life flashes before your eyes, why it does. So if anyone wants to know, let me know. What would be your top question for Trump? Well, first would be this UAP. That would be for the first thing I want to ask him. That's a good one, Josie. I'm going to get back to you on that one. But that definitely right now, with things going, I would definitely ask him about what does he think about the UAP, and would he ever fly Air Force One in Area 51? And what he thinks would happen to him. Would they shoot back? Because Eisenhower apparently threatened to bring the infantry tank division there if they didn't let him in. I don't know if he ever got in. I don't know what happened, but obviously that base never didn't get invaded. So he obviously stood down. But yeah, that's a very interesting. I'd have to think about that because I don't think I'm ever going to have a chance to interview him. My dream would have been to interview him while he was in the White House. That would have been a great opportunity. But hey, who knows? It may have to happen. It's weird how life brings you stuff that you want, but don't know how to get it. And then something just happens and the opportunity's right in front of you. So that's why I don't say anything out. Thank you, Rockstar. I appreciate that. Okay, what's this? Yes, I am. I have to come back and forth for a couple like visits. I had like a surgery scheduled in August, so I like pre-ops and stuff like that. But yes, I am going to start obviously in California because that's where they're going to come first where I live. And then I will go to Arizona and then back, and then I'll Nevada for sure. And then I don't know how far east I'll go. Maybe all the way. Why does this camera keep dropping off? No, let me fix it again. Yeah, this is the instability of StreamYard with this hardware. So yes, I will go with them. Phoenix Lights. You know what? This is really interesting. I was dating a woman in 97. Well, she was 17, so you could say a girl. And we went with her parents to visit her sister. And we were in freaking Phoenix during this time when the Phoenix Lights happened. And I was already a massive believer of UFOs. We didn't see the fucking thing. We weren't outside. It wasn't until the next day that we heard everybody raving and ranting about it and talking about it on TV. And then you hear the solar flares and all that other crap. But yes, fantastic. You know, I wished to have been there. I'm going to interview that governor at some point. I got something cool that Art left me that I haven't revealed to anybody that I'll tell you guys at some point. But yeah. Okay, what's next? Why does it flash? I don't know why. I don't know. I really wish I knew. Let's see what else. Yes, thank you. I'm glad I made it to you. Appreciate that. Okay. You got to go? Okay, no worries. All right. Go to GoFund. Yes, here. I'm going to end this stream, folks, and then I'll catch you tomorrow. All right? Have a good one. And here's my number again. Save it. You are all my friend. Anybody can call me. Just text me first and tell me who it is. Boom. Oops. And then I'll go so you guys can go visit Rich's show. Ooh, let me fix that. And there you go. Okay, with that being said, God bless you all, even though I say that on the back of my phone. Just don't worry about that. It's all a circus. But go enjoy Dufon's show. I love you too, Dorothy. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, go listen to Rich's show. And I'll catch you all tomorrow. You have a great evening and night. Bye.